Hey there, my name is Justin Pinksen. I'd like to thank the museum for inviting me today to have a little talk about some insights, some learnings, and some reflections, some teachings perhaps for LGBTQIA plus youth and their families. So I am a clinical social worker, as I said, with a master's degree in social work. I've actually now worked in 3 different provinces across Canada, and I believe I've worked in, I think, 4 different cities in Southern Ontario. So I've worked with hundreds of families in Mississauga, Toronto, Kitchener, and Hamilton. Many families with many different experiences, challenges over the years, and I feel like I have a little bit of knowledge for youth that are experiencing challenges related to being part of the LGBTQIA plus community. So I'm hoping that today I do strive to keep up to date with most evidence-based research to inform my practice. I do want to say that most of what I'm going to say today comes from kind of my own experiences, what's been helpful for families, what I found to be helpful for families, and hopefully it can give you guys some guidance, maybe you learn something you didn't know before, and it can better your lives in some way. I am going to answer kind of the top questions that have been kind of asked to me the most over the past few years. So I'll just say the question, and then I will just kind of give you my answer, and hopefully it's helpful. So the first question is, what do all the letters mean? So of course there's many versions of this acronym, LGBT. LGBTQIA plus is what I kind of inclusively try to use. There's also 2S LGBT, so I'll talk about that in a second. Depending on where you see it written, it can be quite long. I think the actual version is maybe over 20 letters is long, which tries to really incorporate all members within our community that make it feel like they're part of the community, and really pay honor to their own personal struggles. Okay, so the biggest ones, I think, before I actually talk about each letter, or the top kind of the first letters anyway, is something, just to briefly review like what sexual orientation is. So, I mean, really it's who you find yourself physically attracted to. So for the most part, we have been taught in our society that the boy plus a girl, or male plus female, would you be heterosexual. Male plus male, or girl plus girl, female plus female would be considered homosexual. And then you can also have physical attraction to both, which would kind of make you bisexual. That would be sexual orientation. And then gender identity is whether or not you identify as a boy or a girl. So this can be a little bit tricky for people to understand. Basically the sex that the doctor assigns to you when you're born may not match the gender that you feel you are. So whether or not the sex doctor designates to you be male or female, that might not match your actual internal experience of your own gender. So although the doctor may designate you male, you may feel more female. And again, we'll talk about that in a bit. So with this in mind, that 2S that I alluded to first, that sometimes is placed before the LGBTQ. 2S refers to two-spirit. So from my understanding, for the most part, this is a lettering or a term that's reserved for those within the indigenous cultures. So their belief systems do respect those individuals who experience more than one gender, which isn't super typical for North American society. They're often celebrated in their communities, as that they can better understand both gender roles and norms. So you do have to be of indigenous background to use that acronym. So the L at the beginning of the acronym is lesbian. So again, as I previously just said, a female who is sexually attracted to other females. G is in gay. Usually refers to a male who is sexually attracted to other males, but it could refer to also to a female, depending. And B, bisexual, a person who's attracted to two genders. So this could really be a male gender, a female gender, or it could also be transgender or another gender. So you could also be a male who is, say, physically attracted to males and maybe transgender persons, and that would also classify you as bisexual. T is transgender, a person who is on their journey from one assigned gender, usually one that's assigned at birth, to a different gender, so one that fits more with their internal gender experience. And then Q is queer or questioning. So this is more of an umbrella term that people within the community sometimes just say identify as queer, or I'm questioning right now exactly where I stand with my orientation or gender identity. So for the most part, that's the big first part of the letter. So I'm going to stop there because, like I said, the acronym is quite long. Okay, so next question. At what age do people start getting a sense of their gender and orientation? So I often challenge people when they kind of ask this question. I kind of ask them, you know, when did you determine that you were straight or cisgendered, so not transgender? And of course, the typical response is that, well, I always knew that I was straight, or I always knew that I wasn't transgender. And this is kind of a way of really spinning it, because as children we do see gender norms and sexual orientation norms play out around us everywhere. Our parents, our caregivers, movies, TV really help instill what it is to be masculine or feminine or male or female or gay or straight. So children know quite early on, you know, personally, as I identify as a gay male, I knew at age 7 or 8 that I wasn't straight. And I can say that pretty confidently. I think it was grade 2. So I knew from what was looking around me that I wasn't attracted to girls like the people around my age would be talking about girls, or I would see things on TV with a male attracted to a female that didn't really seem like it fit for me. So it's quite early on that children would say that they remember feeling different, or that they knew that they weren't straight, like I said, or that they weren't transgender or cisgendered. So I feel like it's really up to caregivers, mentors, teachers, you know, coaches, people in positions of authority in children's lives, to really give them opportunities to explore their gender and to explore their sexual orientation and figure out what fits for them and where they stand. So the next question, what emotional challenges do LGBTQIA plus youth experience compared to peers who do not hold that identity? So the first one I would say is rejection. Many youth face rejection pretty soon after they come out from their peers, often their family members, people close in their lives, which is very, very hard, of course. Many friends that I've spoken to of people who come out feel betrayed or hurt, that it was someone they considered to be a close friend and that they couldn't come forward and be honest with them. It's hurtful. Some friends feel ashamed depending on what they believe in, that now they don't want to be associated with someone who identifies as gay or transgender. As well, youth often feel rejection from their families. Again, depending on cultural and belief system, youth being gay sometimes doesn't line up with what the teachings were taught from our parents. And many parents feel ashamed of having a child that it belongs to the community. As well, I've also had parents tell me that they feel ashamed that they don't know how to help, or they don't know how to handle it, or they don't know how to be there for their son or daughter right now, or their child, because that wasn't what they expected would happen. Another big emotional challenge I would say is hatred, which you know, shows itself in bullying, You know, many times being misunderstood leads people to feel afraid, and they act out in ways to get rid of that fear or something they don't quite understand. So this bullying I've seen come from people in positions of authority in a children's life. For example, a teacher or a mentor or someone that they thought they could trust, and then this person betrays them, or they don't feel supported by them anymore. So that's often a quite emotional challenge. And the last big one I would say is that kind of fear, uncertainty, or doubt. You know, fear, I'd say for trans youth especially now, is navigating a whole new world for things like washroom concerns. Can I still join this sports team? Things like that that would have never been a concern prior. As well, that uncertainty and doubt, I've often seen children say things like, am I really gay? I don't know because my mom doesn't like it, or you know, I've been taught that it's wrong. And kids will very often kind of have that doubt about their identity or their orientation, and sometimes we'll try to often change it in order to fit in or be more accepted. Okay, so the next question is, how can friends, family, guardians be supportive of LGBTQIA youth? Or how can LGBTQIA youth ask for support? So I'd first like to say that supporting these youth who belong to the LGBTQIA+ community is very important. As I previously mentioned, most youth face rejection from those around them. I often speak with parents and friends of these youth who just want to know the best ways that they can be helpful, and let their loved one know that they love them. I would say the first and most important thing you can do with them is possibly just to tell them that. Tell them that you love them, that you still love them, regardless of who they are or what they now believe in, or you know, the challenges they know they're going to face. Remind them that you love them, that you'll always be there for them. And then the next thing that's important would be to actually have a genuine conversation with them about what would be most helpful, how you can help them in a way that they feel comfortable with you helping them. You know, so many times we are so eager to help that we come up with all of these different suggestions and things that we believe would be most helpful in the moment, or again what we're taught to think that would be helpful, and that isn't what the person needs at that moment. They really need you to just listen to them, let them guide the situation, more or less allow them to be who they are at their own pace. Again, we are very influenced by media and things around us like television and movies. And we see a gay character, and we see a transgender character, and we're really encouraged, and yet if we have a LGBTQIA youth around us, we want to make them fit that box, right? Make them fit that mold. So really just be patient, but let them guide the ship, is what I often tell people. So really, you know, very small things that are usually helpful is asking them questions that would be in line with now what they want to talk about. So even though it may be uncomfortable to ask your son or a little guy in your life, you know, questions about another guy in their lives, like, you know, do you have a crush? That's incredibly validating, because we would ask that to cisgendered straight children without really thinking about that. So gay kids don't often get that experience, so that would be great. Similarly with trans youth, sometimes they do want to explore the gender they feel more comfortable with. Sometimes they aren't ready, but if they ask you to go get them something that validates their gender, you know, like makeup, is there any harm in that? That would be a really helpful thing just to do. Make it playful, share the experience with them, help them explore that part of themselves, and see if it fits for them. I would also just say from the other way, LGBTQIA youth, reach out to people, reach out to your friends. I often have kids tell me that they then feel so isolated, and then they also haven't talked to their friends because they're afraid, right? And you know what, with so much diversity around us, people are quite, now I find, more used to having different people around them that don't really fit with their own views of things or perspectives on things, which in a way kind of helps us embrace each other all the more. So I always say to people, reach out, you know, let them know that you need them, ask for support. I want you to help me through this challenging situation. Can you be there for me? And really allow what happens to happen. Okay, my next question that I have. How can LGBTQIA youth take care of their mental health? So, I am a clinical social worker, so I regularly will help people experiencing strong mental health challenges with different strategies, techniques, you know, processing through difficult situations. And like I said previously, you know, youth in these situations do feel strong emotional challenges, rejection, hatred, self-doubt, but also self-hatred, you know, and feeling disappointment in themselves, disappointment for their family. And it is quite common that youth will experience suicidal ideation, feelings about, you know, self-harming themselves is quite common. You know, in trans youth, the rate of suicide is significantly higher than for cisgendered youth, or people that fit with their gender identity that they were assigned at birth fits with what they feel internally. So, you know, we do need to really be careful and helpful as best as we can. You know, we can only imagine the kind of internal thoughts that they have about themselves. Very common ones, I wrote a few down, are things like, will this get better? Am I still loved? Am I better off not being here? Which is often quite hard for parents to hear, that their children think of these things, think about themselves in these ways, you know, when their lives are so young. But the amount of rejection, you know, that these children often do have to face is quite harsh and quite hard. So I wanted to walk us through a little mental health strategy. I use myself quite often. It's quite useful. It's adapted from acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a preferred model of therapy that I use. And the gist of it is that it helps us to kind of feel some distance from these negative thoughts. So, you know, our brain is quite powerful, and it will tell us many things, evil things, and usually attacks us the way we are most vulnerable. So like I said, maybe the thought of, am I still loved, or do my parents still love me, is probably more likely to come from a child that's quite close to their parents. Because that doubt, the brain can be very evil, and wanting us to feel really bad. And those negative thoughts are just thoughts, and may not, very often, quite often, are not true. But our brains will have us believe they are true. So the more we can kind of, you know, train our brain, or give our minds a little bit of a pushback, can be very helpful in helping you feel some separation and power over your thoughts. So this exercise we're going to do is called dropping anchor. It's a grounding activity. I'm also going to combine it with another, like a grounding activity. So you can do this anytime. You can kind of do this anywhere. So actually I'd like you all to do it together with me today, because, you know, the more you do things like this, the more it feels that you're learning something, and that you will actually be able to do it later. And caregivers, if you're watching, please also join in doing this. You'd be surprised how often or how helpful these techniques are when you're also facing really negative thoughts throughout the day, the challenging days that we all have. Okay, so I want you to find like a comfortable chair. Wherever you're sitting right now, actually, even if you're sitting on a bed or sitting on the floor, I want you to first dig your feet into the ground. So actually, let me first just say the reason why this is called dropping anchor is imagine, I want you to visualize that you're in a little boat, a little canoe or something, maybe a little bit of a bigger boat than a canoe. And you're in the bay, right? You're in a little part of the lake where it's really calm. The water's really calm. And you start moving out into deeper water. And of course, the water is kind of like our emotions, right? When you're in your little boat and the water's really calm, it feels really good. You feel really comfortable, you feel really safe. And then when you move into deeper water, it gets a little bit, wavier. It gets a little bit louder and rougher. And those emotions are kind of overtaking us, right? You're in your little boat, you're going up and down now, you're feeling really out of control. So the idea of dropping anchor is like throwing down something heavy, at an anchor. It doesn't mean that you're not experiencing those emotions. You're still in your little boat, you're still experiencing difficult emotions, but now you feel grounded and a little bit more secure, like you can ride out these emotions. So that visualization sometimes is quite helpful for people when they do this sort of activity. Okay, so dig your feet into the ground wherever you are. Dig your toes in, kind of really press it so you feel it. Similarly with your hands, dig your feet at your feet. Dig your fingers into the edge of your chair. Dig them into something like a pillow, just so you kind of notice your fingers, right? We're bringing attention to our body. Many times people feel out of control with their emotions. They often feel that their brains take over and they don't feel very in control of their body, and that the negative emotions are more powerful. So doing this kind of brings your awareness back into your body, brings you back into the present moment, and kind of gets you out of your head as well. So you're digging your feet in, you're digging your hands in, and I want you to notice the weight of your body. Notice, how heavy you feel in your chair, how heavy you feel in your bed or wherever you are, and acknowledge those thoughts. So say them out loud. Any negative thought you might have about yourself, if you're comfortable doing that in front of the person you're with, or if you're alone, it's okay. Sometimes this is very hard for people because it feels like acknowledging it and saying it out loud makes it more real. But the internal thoughts, you all know it's in your head. It is in your head. So I want you to say it out loud, like, am I still loved? I'm an ugly person. Nobody cares about me. I'm not worthy of respect. I'm fat. Being gay is a sin. My body is gross. I hate my body. And while you're saying these things, I want you to, again, press your feet in, press your fingernails in, and I want you to look around the room you're in while you're acknowledging these thoughts, and I want you to notice 5 things that you can see in the room you're in. So I can see your water bottle, I can see a camera, I can see a desk, I can see a book bag, and I can see a laptop. 4 things that you can touch. I can touch this plant, I can touch this chair, I can touch my cell phone, I can touch my leg. Okay, you're still acknowledging the thoughts. You're still saying them. I'm ugly, I'm not worthy of love. The thoughts are still there, they're part of your life, but in this moment, you are in your chair, you are on your bed, you are present. 3 things that you can hear. Right now I can hear a guy mowing his lawn next door. I can hear a fan, I think, in the next room. And I can hear myself speaking. 2 things you can smell. This one's kind of hard. I smell coffee on my breath. And I smell, I smell an essential oil that I had on earlier. I can smell that, it's minty. And then the last thing is one thing you can taste, which for me is coffee breath. Like I said, I had a coffee. So all of these things are using your 5 senses. So they're bringing you out of your head and bringing you into the present moment. But the difference is you're acknowledging all of these thoughts as they're still there. And it allows you to have some distance from them, not feel them so internally, and reminding yourself that in the moment, you're in the present moment, you are in control of your body. The thoughts are still there, they can be there, and you can be present. So it's quite grounding. You know, you're able to engage then in things you care about. Sometimes those thoughts make us feel overwhelmed, like I said, and can lead to self-harm, lead us to isolate and go in our rooms by yourself. But doing this kind of makes you feel in control of your body, allowing you to reconsider what's important to me right now, and I'm going to go do that. So it can be really helpful for some people. So use that anytime you need to. That's called dropping anchor. And the last question I have is how to get support, or how do I get support from a healthcare provider? So first of all, I'm going to say that, you know, the museum and I have chatted. We're going to provide you guys with a list of local resources in the area that you can reach out to that are helpful. There's also lots of provincial programs and initiatives like Rainbow Health Ontario, for example, that there's lots of good information. Again, we'll just include that as part of the list. I would also say that, especially over the last, you know, several years, school curriculum has really adjusted to better encompass LGBTQIA plus health issues, making more room for the conversation and making sure that we are more involved, members of the community are more involved in everything. So reach out to a trusted teacher, mentor, guidance counselor. They're really useful people to talk to. Of course, social workers, as I'm a social worker, are wonderful people. Depending on where you go, your family health team or a clinic or a nurse, those people should be able to guide you, at least if they can't help you, toward a place they can. So therapists, of course, are sometimes great resources to begin having conversations if you are really confused, or if you're afraid to have the conversation with your family. They can kind of give you some pointers or help you do that conversation. They can sit with you during those conversations. So a lot of these programs, hopefully, we'll provide you with today. That's a good place to start. And again, mental health agencies are also very well trained to deal with things like suicidal ideation, self-harm, depression. So if you're going through some of those things, and if you feel some of those powerful feelings and emotions because of confusion or self-hatred, that would be, I would say, the best place to start. Again, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I really hope these questions were useful in some way, shape, or form, even a little bit. Maybe even to get you started and having a different sort of conversation with someone in your life, someone that you've been thinking about, or get you started on the right track toward being more true to yourself, your authentic self. So happy Pride. It is Pride Month. I wore my shirt today in celebration of this one. Is actually also a heart. So stay true to yourself. Take care.